You have been taught again and again to chase happiness, to pursue the dream, to hold on to the moments that feel good, and to run from those that don't. You have been told that joy is the ultimate goal, that pleasure is proof you are living rightly, and that success is the measure of your worth. But what if I told you that this pursuit is exactly what keeps you in pain? Look around you. Notice the tightness in your chest, the weight behind your eyes, the tension in your thoughts. You have run so far to grasp happiness, but still you feel restless. Still you are not at peace. And why? Because happiness is fleeting. It comes and it goes. It is dependent on circumstance, on conditions, on the ever-changing tides of life. And yet you have chained yourself to it. Like a leaf blown about by the wind, your inner state rises and falls with each high and low. But freedom, true freedom, is something else entirely. It is not the opposite of sadness. It is not the constant presence of joy. It is the capacity to remain unshaken. It is to live in the heart of the storm and know that you are not the storm. The Buddha did not promise us happiness. He promised us liberation. He pointed toward the unconditioned, the deathless, the unshakable ground beneath all things. And he said, "Come and see for yourself." To see clearly, you must begin not with seeking, but with stillness. Let the mind settle like dust after a storm. In the quiet, observe your thoughts. Watch how they grasp and reject, how they judge and desire. Ask yourself, who is it that watches? Who is aware of these thoughts, these cravings, these fleeting pleasures? This watcher, this presence is not bound by your moods. It is not defined by your past. It does not need to be happy. It is already free. Freedom is not a place you reach. It is a return to what you are before the stories, before the fear, before the world told you who to be. It is the space in which sorrow arises and fades. It is the silence in which joy comes and goes. It is awareness itself, spacious, still, untouched. But how do we live from this place? How do we walk through the world without becoming entangled in it? Begin with right view. See the nature of all things, impermanent, unsatisfactory, and not self. Know that no form, no feeling, no thought can truly define you. Watch them rise, watch them pass, bow to their coming, and bow to their going. Next, hold your beliefs lightly. Do not cling to them, even your ideas about yourself, especially though you are not your name, your job, your history, or your pain. You are the awareness in which all of these appear. You are the vast sky, not the passing clouds. Discipline is freedom, not the harsh discipline of force, but the gentle, unwavering discipline of presence. To show up, moment by moment, for what is real. To return, again and again, to now. Every breath, a reminder. Every step, a return. Let this be your practice. Purpose arises not from seeking more, but from serving what is. Ask not, what can I get from this life? But what can I give to this moment? What can I release? What can I soften? What can I forgive? You do not need to fix everything. You do not need to solve your entire life. You only need to come home to this breath, this heartbeat, this stillness. In this presence, even pain becomes sacred. Even loss becomes a doorway. Gratitude is the natural fragrance of awareness. When you stop grasping, you begin seeing, and when you truly see, even the ordinary becomes holy. The sunlight on a leaf, the sound of your breath, the ache in your chest. It all belongs. Nothing is missing. Nothing is wrong. What you resist persists. What you embrace transforms. So hold your sorrow with gentleness. Cradle your fear like a child. Meet your anger with compassion. This is not weakness. This is the courage of awakening. Adaptation is not reaction, it is response, and to respond wisely, You must listen deeply, not to the noise of the world, but to the quiet wisdom within. Life is not here to please you. It is here to teach you, to break open the shell of your ego and show you what cannot be broken. You will fall, you will forget, you will cling again, but each moment offers the chance to remember. Each breath is a doorway back to the truth. You are not here to be happy, you are here to be free. Let your suffering awaken you. Let it crack the illusion that happiness can be held. Let it point you to the silence behind all wanting. There, in that silence, you will find the real treasure. Not joy, not bliss, but peace beyond conditions. And once you taste it, even for a moment, you will no longer chase shadows. You will walk through life not seeking but serving, not grasping but giving, not fearing but flowing. This is freedom, and it was never far. It was only hidden beneath your trying. Stop trying to be happy. Start remembering that you are already free. And so from that stillness you begin to see, not with the eyes of judgment, but with the eyes of wisdom. You begin to understand that freedom does not come from the perfect arrangement of your life, but from the perfect presence within your life. You realize that no external condition can give you the lasting peace you seek, because it has always been an internal discovery. The mind, untrained, will pull you in 1,000 directions. It will insist that freedom lies just beyond the next success, the next relationship, the next transformation. But again and again, you are shown the truth, that what you truly long for is not a better version of your story, but the end of your identification with the story altogether. Watch closely. The thoughts that say, "I will be happy when," are the very chains that bind you. They whisper promises that are never fulfilled, and yet you believe them. You follow them. You build your days around them. But happiness tied to conditions is a prisoner's joy. It cannot endure. It is the flame that dances just out of reach. Instead, look to the flame within, the one that does not flicker with every gust of life, the one that burns steady in silence. That is awareness, that is freedom, and it requires no special condition to shine. Do not wait for life to be perfect before you rest in your being. Perfection is a concept invented by the mind. Reality is already whole. Every broken part, every flawed moment, every crack in your plan, these are not mistakes, these are openings, portals to awakening. And so you walk not with the urgency of a seeker, but with the dignity of one who remembers. You walk through pain without being broken by it. You walk through joy without becoming drunk on it. You become the witness of all experience, and in that witnessing, you find stillness deeper than thought, more intimate than emotion. Trust this stillness. It is not emptiness. It is fullness without grasping. It is not indifference. It is compassion without control. The still mind does not turn away from life. It embraces it fully without need to possess or change. There is great power in surrender. Not the surrender of weakness, but the surrender of wisdom. It is the power of letting go of illusions, of no longer playing the game of more and better and mine. When you let go of needing life to be a certain way, you finally meet life as it is, and there in that honest meeting is where your true power begins. Discomfort will arise. This is the nature of existence. Bodies age, people leave, plans fail, but suffering is optional. It is not the pain itself that binds you, but your resistance to it, your refusal to feel, to face, to open. Let discomfort teach you. Let it be your guru. For every ache in the heart is a pointer back to the truth. You are not your sorrow. You are not your thoughts. You are not your past. You are not your longing. You are not even your story of awakening. You are the space that holds all of it. You are the light in which it is seen. Let the light grow. Feed it, not with desire but with awareness. Nourish it, not with striving, but with presence. The awakened life is not one free of hardship. It is one free of inner division. You are no longer at war with what is. And when you are no longer divided, you are free. Your beliefs will shift. Your identity will soften. You will find your saying, "I don't know," more often. And it will feel like a blessing, not a burden. Certainty will fade, but trust will deepen. Not blind trust, but the trust of direct seeing, that all things arise and pass, and that you are the space in which they do. This space is your refuge. It is the temple you carry everywhere, not built of bricks, but of silence and truth, and no one can take it from you. You begin to understand that joy is not something to seek, but something to allow. Like breath, it arises naturally when nothing is forced. You do not need to chase joy, you only need to stop chasing everything else. This is the turning point, when you realize that all your seeking was only taking you further from what you already are, that every search for happiness outside of yourself was a detour, that every future you imagined was a distraction from the present that holds everything. You let go, not because you give up, but because you finally see that holding on was the very thing keeping you stuck. And now, the journey becomes lighter, not because life becomes easy, but because you are no longer dragging the weight of resistance through it. You smile, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer demanding that it be. You rest, not because there is nothing left to do, but because you now do from a place of stillness, not struggle. You serve not because you need to be needed, but because compassion flows naturally from the clear heart. And you love not as a transaction, not as a possession, but as a quiet extension of your being. This is the freedom the Buddha pointed to, not an escape from life, but an awakening within it. And it is here, now, always. You begin to live without performing, without proving, without constantly narrating your existence to yourself or others. You begin to live in the quiet dignity of being, where the need to impress, achieve, or accumulate begins to dissolve, not because you have no ambition, but because you see clearly what is real and what is illusion. There is a kind of wealth the world cannot recognize, a wealth of inner spaciousness. The kind that is not measured by possessions or praise, but by your ability to sit with yourself in complete honesty, to be still in the presence of your own mind and not flinch, to hear the voice of fear and not obey it, to feel longing rise and not grasp it. This is the path awakening, and it is not about becoming special. It is about becoming simple, so simple that nothing can disturb the peace within you, so simple that truth flows through you without distortion, so simple that life in all its chaos and beauty becomes your teacher rather than your tormentor. The mind will tell you, you must fix this, you must be better, you must, but listen carefully beneath that voice, and you'll hear something truer, something quieter, something already whole. It is the breath, it is the silence between thoughts. It is the pause before a word. It is the space in which all things appear. This is where the Buddha pointed, not to another doctrine, not to another identity, but to this direct seeing. Look, listen, be still. You don't need more knowledge. You need deeper presence. You don't need to become someone else. You need to see who you are without the layers of who you think you should be. And who are you? You are not your failures. You are not your titles. You are not your trauma. You are not your achievements. You are not even your personality. These are clothes you have worn, but they are not your skin. Strip away all roles and what remains? Consciousness, being, awareness, that which observes the rise and fall of your experience without clinging, without rejecting, without naming. That is who you are. That is your refuge. That is freedom. And in that realization, compassion begins to bloom, not as a practice, but as a natural outpouring of presence. You see others not as threats or tools, but as reflections, fellow travelers on the path of suffering and liberation. You forgive more easily. You judge less quickly. You meet pain with a tenderness you once reserved only for joy. Gratitude arises not as a moral obligation, but as a quiet miracle. You thank the morning sun not because someone told you to, but because your heart is awake enough to feel its warmth. You honor the passing of time not with fear but with reverence. You bow to endings as deeply as you welcome beginnings. This is not the kind of happiness the world sells you. It is not the shallow euphoria of escape. It is the deep joy of presence. The joy of knowing that nothing needs to be added for this moment to be enough. You begin to act not from impulse, not from pressure, but from clarity. Your thoughts become aligned with truth. Your speech becomes more mindful. Your steps become deliberate. Your life becomes a meditation, not because you sit on a cushion all day, but because you carry the cushion within you. Discipline becomes devotion. Devotion becomes expression. Expression becomes truth in motion. You will still feel sadness. You will still feel fear. But these will no longer shake your foundation. They will no longer define your direction. They will be like weather passing through the vast sky of your being. And you will smile, not the smile of someone who has figured it all out, but the smile of someone who no longer needs to. This is the peace that cannot be taken. This is the joy that does not depend. This is the freedom that does not fade. And it begins the moment you stop chasing happiness and choose instead to wake up. There comes a point on the path when you no longer ask, "How can I be happy?" but instead, "What is the truth of this moment?" This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. Because now, instead of measuring your life by pleasure or pain, gain or loss, you measure it by presence, by how fully and honestly you are living it. You no longer chase the high, you no longer flee the low. You become curious, open, courageous enough to feel what's real. And in that willingness, suffering softens. Not because it disappears, but because you are no longer resisting it. Because you are finally walking with life, not against it. This is the freedom that the Buddha spoke of. Not freedom from experience, but freedom within it. A freedom that allows the heart to remain open, even in grief. A freedom that lets love flow, even when it hurts. A freedom that stays grounded, even as everything around you changes. Because everything will change. This is the law of impermanence. People will come and go, bodies will age, fortunes will rise and fall, emotions will bloom and wither like wildflowers in the wind. But if you are rooted in awareness, if you are anchored in truth, then you will not be lost in the tides. You will remain whole, even as the form of your life shifts and reshapes itself. Nothing is permanent, nothing is guaranteed, and yet you are safe. Because your safety does not come from control, it comes from clarity, from understanding the nature of things so deeply that you no longer need them to be different. This is what it means to be at peace, to be the eye of the storm, to be the still point in a world that spins, to breathe even when it hurts, to see even when it's dark, to trust even when you don't understand. And when you live from this place, not as an idea but as a direct experience, everything changes. Your relationships shift. You stop needing others to complete you, or fix you, or make you feel worthy. You stop manipulating, performing, or shrinking to be loved. You become love itself, steady, quiet, fierce in its softness, and that love flows into everything you do. Your work becomes service, your words become medicine, your presence becomes a refuge. Even in silence, you begin to heal others, not by fixing them, but by being fully with them, without judgment, without agenda, simply as a mirror of what is possible when the heart is free. This is the power of awakening. It is not dramatic, it is not loud, it is not about fireworks or mystical visions. It is about being utterly, humbly real, to sit with your breath and know that it is enough, to walk beneath the trees and feel the earth holding you, to face your own mind and smile at its wildness, to live without needing life to entertain you, to see suffering, and instead of turning away, to bow and whisper, "Yes, I see you, and still I am free. This is not an escape. This is not denial. This is the fullest embrace of life possible. The radical act of saying yes to what is, and in that yes, discovering a kind of joy the world cannot manufacture. The joy of being here. The joy of nothing missing. The joy of knowing that you don't need to earn this moment. It is already yours. And so the chase ends. The grasping dissolves. The seeking fades. And what remains is you. Whole. Alive. Awake. Not happy perhaps, but deeply, beautifully free. And yet, even when you awaken to this deep stillness, the world will continue around you. Bills will still need paying. People will still misunderstand you. Old habits will still echo. This is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that you are alive. The awakened life does not remove you from the world. It returns you to it with new eyes, new breath, new depth. The path does not require you to retreat into a cave. It invites you to be fully present in your ordinary moments and to discover that nothing about them is truly ordinary. Washing a dish becomes a meditation. Folding laundry becomes a ritual. Listening becomes a sacred act. When you are free, nothing is beneath your awareness. Every moment is a temple. Every breath is a prayer. And yet, there will be days when you forget. Days when you fall back into old patterns. When you grasp. When you run. When you shrink back into fear. Do not judge these days. Do not call them failures. See them for what they are. Teachers dressed in the clothes of habit. They arrive to show you what remains unhealed. They arise to call you deeper. Freedom is not a straight line, it is a spiral. You return again and again to the same lessons, but from a higher place. What once shattered you now humbles you. What once consumed you now passes like smoke. You begin to smile at the dance of your humanity. You stop needing to win. You stop needing to prove. You begin to live with grace. Grace is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It is the ability to respond with love where you used to react with fear. It is the willingness to pause when ego wants to attack. It is the softness that comes when you realize you don't need to defend yourself anymore. You are already enough. You are always enough. And this understanding changes everything. Because when you know you are enough, you stop begging the world to fill you. You stop selling your soul for approval. You stop performing for love that should have always been your birthright. Instead, you give. Not because you lack, but because you are overflowing. You give your attention, fully, richly to those who are speaking, even if their words are unpolished. You give your presence to those who are suffering, even if you don't know what to say. You give your forgiveness, not because the other deserved it, but because you deserve peace. This is the generosity of the awakened heart. It costs nothing, but it is the most valuable offering on earth. The Buddha said, "Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love." This is the eternal law. This is not poetry. This is law, as real as gravity, as solid as breath. When you meet anger with anger, it multiplies. When you meet pain with resistance, it deepens. But when you meet suffering with compassion, it begins to unravel. The knots begin to loosen. The walls begin to fall. And this does not only heal others, it heals you. Because every act of compassion cuts through the illusion of separation. Every act of kindness reminds you, we are not strangers, we are not enemies, we are not alone. We are one awareness, meeting itself in 10,000 forms. This knowing transforms your relationships. You begin to speak less to convince, and more to connect. You listen not just with your ears, but with your whole body, your whole presence. You stop needing to be right all the time. You realize that peace is more valuable than victory. And when conflict arises, as it always will, you ask not, "How do I win?" But how do I stay rooted in love, even here? That is the mark of true strength. To love when it's hard, to forgive when it's undeserved, to open when it would be easier to close, and no one else needs to understand. This path is not about appearances. It's not about what others think of your spirituality. It's not about looking enlightened. It's about being real, fully, nakedly, courageously real. That's what the Buddha offered us. Not a religion, not a dogma, but a mirror, a chance to see ourselves clearly, a chance to wake up from the trance of ego and remember our true face. And when you do, even just for a moment, it's enough to change everything. You no longer fear death the way you once did, because you see that what you are is not this body, this name, this fleeting storyline. What you are is not bound by birth or ending. You are the awareness that watches it all unfold. You are the silence behind every thought. You are the space in which life dances, and so you live differently, not recklessly, but reverently. You take nothing for granted. You hold each moment as if it were sacred, because it is. You hold each person as if they were your teacher, because they are. You walk slower. You speak with more care. You love with more courage. This is not an idea. This is a practice, a path, a way of being, and it is open to you now, not someday, not after you're healed, not once you've achieved your goals. Now, because this moment is the only doorway to awakening, not the past, not the future. This breath, this heartbeat, this silence, and the longer you remain in this now, the clearer things become. The more you realize you don't need to chase happiness, because peace was never lost. It was only buried beneath the noise. And now that the noise has quieted, you can hear the truth. You are free. You have always been free. You just forgot. But now you remember. And now, we arrive at the still point. Not as an ending, but as a recognition that the path was never somewhere to go. It was always something to awaken within you. The truth has always been here, hiding quietly beneath your striving, beneath your stories, beneath the noise of not enough. You do not need to be fixed. You do not need to be more. You only need to remember who you truly are when you stop pretending to be what the world told you to be. This remembering is not an act of thought, it is an act of presence. It happens in the space between one breath and the next, when the mind grows quiet and the soul begins to speak. In that silence, you hear it, the truth that was always whispering beneath the surface. You are not here to be happy. You are here to be free. Not free from responsibility, not free from hardship, but free from the illusion that your worth is tied to circumstance. Free from the belief that peace lies somewhere else. Free from the craving that keeps you spinning in circles. You are here to know what is real. And reality is not always comfortable. It will challenge you. It will confront your attachments. It will strip away the masks you've worn for safety. But it will give you something infinitely more precious than comfort. It will give you truth. And with truth comes clarity. With clarity comes compassion, and with compassion comes liberation. This is what the Buddha meant when he spoke of waking up. It is not about transcending your humanity. It is about becoming so fully human, so courageously open, that even your wounds become gateways, even your fears become teachers, and even your sorrow becomes holy. The awakened life is not a life of constant bliss. It is a life of deep alignment, a life where your actions, your speech, your thoughts, all begin to harmonize with wisdom. You no longer live at war with yourself. You no longer abandon your heart for the approval of the world. Instead, you become a vessel for peace. Your presence itself becomes healing, not because you try to heal anyone, but because you are no longer afraid to be seen, no longer afraid to feel, no longer afraid to love without holding back. You become gentle in your strength, humble in your clarity, radiant in your stillness. You walk into a room and bring calm, not chaos. You speak words that nourish, not divide. You choose stillness even when the world demands you rush, because you are no longer trying to win a race that leads nowhere. You are no longer bargaining with life for happiness. You are bowing to it, serving it, living in reverence to this moment, not the one you hoped for, not the one you planned for, but this one, this breath, this sensation, this heartbeat, because this moment is the only place where freedom lives. And from this place, you begin to see how little you actually need. Not because you're denying yourself, but because the craving itself has lost its grip. You don't need everyone to like you. You don't need everything to go your way. You don't need to control how others perceive your journey. You only need to show up, fully, truthfully, with a heart wide enough to hold both joy and sorrow, success and failure, life and death, as they are. And that is the greatest power of all, to be unshaken by praise or blame, to be rooted in a love that does not depend on outcome, to hold space for your own imperfection and still walk in dignity. This is not a fantasy. It is not a distant ideal. It is available now in every ordinary moment, if you are willing to stop performing, stop escaping, stop chasing. Because the truth is, you were never meant to chase happiness. Happiness was never supposed to be a goal. It was supposed to be a side effect of living in alignment with truth. And truth is often uncomfortable. It will ask you to shed what is false. It will ask you to let go of old identity. It will ask you to walk away from the versions of yourself that were born out of fear. But in doing so, it will give you something far more lasting than happiness. It will give you freedom and in that freedom, you will experience joy, not the fleeting joy that depends on winning or being seen, but the quiet, steady joy of knowing who you are, no matter what changes around you. You will discover that peace is not found in the absence of pain, but in the presence of full awareness. You will begin to trust the intelligence of the universe again, not blindly, but with the quiet strength of one who has looked deeply, felt fully, and stood still in the middle of the storm. You will love more honestly, not because it's easy, but because you are no longer afraid of being broken. You have already been broken, and in the breaking, you found the indestructible. You found the part of you that remains whole through every loss, every ending, every silence. That part of you is the one who watches, the one who endures, the one who whispers, "I am not my name. I am not my past. I am not even my story. I am the space in which all things rise and fall. I am that which cannot be lost." This is your liberation, not a promise of perfection, but a return to what never left. So now you ask no more from the world than what it is ready to give. You walk without expectation, but with presence. You listen without agenda, but with love. You give without needing anything in return, not because you're selfless, but because you are full. And when people ask, "How do you do it? How are you so calm, so grounded, so at peace?" you don't give them answers. You offer them your presence, because presence is the greatest teaching. It says, "Come, sit, feel. You are safe here." And that is how we transform the world, not by changing everyone, but by being someone who is no longer trying to be anything, someone who is simply awake, breathing, trusting, and free. Stop trying to be happy. Start remembering that you are already free, and in that remembering you become a light the world cannot extinguish.